We do have some very special announcements this morning, and I'm going to ask if John will come, and you have something too? Okay, all right. John's going to come on behalf of the transition team.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is always a danger by putting another preacher in a pulpit up here. So, yeah, okay. What I'd keep tabs on me. I'd like you to, excuse me, imagine with me being about 133 years ago in the middle of winter, and we have just arrived at church. Snow on the ground, it is cold, and it is cold, and it is cold, like we know snow on the ground. And we arrived by Flossie and the horse on cart this morning, and just the same way that you folks did, and we were all bundled up in blankets and rugs and the old metal bed warmers that we used to bring on the horse. You know, it's sit it under the rug to keep warm. And we were ready for a service this morning, 1893. But just a minute. We got to keep the horses warm. You didn't come by car. You might have walked, but we got to keep the horses warm. And we got to keep the blankets dry for at least 2 hours. Because by the time Sunday school's over and Sunday's church service is over, at least it's going to be 2 hours. We don't want them wet outside. But over the last 2 or 3 months, a suggestion has arrived, very persistent, that we should build a horse barn on the property, right out here. We want it with hay on the floor. We want one with doors too. And you know what? They did. They built a horse shed out the back. Nobody comes to church anymore and not have the horses sheltered. By the way, the Lutherans have theirs heated. Our 1890 church was forced to keep up with the society in which we live. Then the world changed again. So shortly after we built the horse shed, change happened, like constant change. We know that. But by the early 1900s, the wealthy folks drove around in cars. Not like we got, but cars, they called them. Life changed because of these new devil demons, they referred to them as. Devil demons. Riding round on our horse trails and horse carts trails, they're driving on them, scaring the bejeebers out of Hortense and Flossie. We've got to change, folks. They were forced to keep up with the world in which we lived, this church, this place. So after we did that, then we found that we put it in the church records. So enough about what our church records say about building a horse shed here. We, as a congregation, have the same kind of decisions today. We are at the threshold of critical change, and there are 2 options. One, to be an agent of change, or number 2, be the victim of change. And if we want to be victims of change, we can sit there and go, well, woe is us. Woe is us. But the agents of change are looking for new possibilities, new futures, new ideas to move this church and its faithful people forward. Our history will not stop this year. But build a horse shed or not? That's a metaphorical question. Today, we're in the midst of this necessary radical restructuring of who we are as a congregation, who we are as a people. And now we're in the process of getting our brains and our arms around how to minister to ourselves and how to minister to our neighbour. Society has changed so much that the old wineskins have worn out. We want to keep God alive in our lives and those of our neighbour well into the future. So that's the who are we existential question. What do we exist for? Transition is underway here. Many of us are using our God-given brains and listening very carefully in order to decide what kind of horse shed we should build. Because the newfangled cars are coming, folks. We're going to have to deal with AI. And these new cars that are coming down the line, we got to watch it because they are very fast. So community, we all need your help. We need your participation. Do pray for this church and for the various teams pulling together information so that we all can make decisions that are sound and everlasting. So here's a little bit of homework. Think a lot, write them down, and pass them off to someone else in the congregation, whether it be a leader, whether it be pastor, whether it be finance committee, whether it be Sue, but pass them on so that those ideas can get put in a bucket and we can all look at and hear. Because it's your church too. Thank you for listening. Grace to you and peace.